CQ on 10. CQ on 10 meters. CQ is beaming northwest. This is Bulgaria. LC2RS, Lima Zulu 2, Romeo Sierra, Lima Zebra 2, Radio Sugar, calling CQ and listening. Over.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another Tech Minds video. So you may have seen my video on installing PiHat SDR onto a Raspberry Pi and using a touchscreen turning it into a nifty little standalone SDR receiver. Well, in this video we're going to take a look at another similar application called SDRBERRY. Now, SDRBERRY is still in development and the developer is very responsive on their GitHub page for this project, and he fixes issues and adds new features quite quickly. Now, primarily SDRBERRY has been created as a transceiver application, controlling SDR transceivers like the Radioberry, Adam Pluto SDR and HackRF. However, SDRs that only receive are also supported via the use of SOAPY. RTL-SDR and SDRPlay devices fall into this SOAPY support, so you can use those if you got them. Now, you must admit this UI or graphical user interface looks absolutely stunning. To me, it looks really nice and it's actually really pleasant to use. The screen that I'm using here is version 1 official 7-inch Raspberry Pi touchscreen. Now, this has a resolution of 800 by 480, but according to the documentation for SDRBERRY, it also supports the high resolution Pi screen version 2. SDRBERRY runs directly on a Pi, and I'm using here a Pi 4 for this example, and the screen is actually connected directly to the Pi and mounted on the back of the screen. Now, SDRBERRY does support touch to select features like changing bands, changing mode of modulation, and altering volume and other sliders. However, I find it easier to use a mouse to change frequency. You can literally just point and click or use the thumb wheel on a mouse to fine tune. Now, depending on the device that you're using, you may find that some of the buttons do not work, like preamp or attenuator, and that's because the selected device probably doesn't have that support for it. IF gain and RF gain sliders do work, at least for the devices that I've tested with. You can adjust the bandwidth by pressing this button here, and you can select from a preset selection. Going along the bottom bar, spectrum is the main display, and then band is where you can choose which preset ham band you want to select. The RX tab has a range of sliders that allows you to adjust things like waterfall gain and spectrum gain, so you can just adjust the screen to your liking. The AGC tab again brings up some sliders and settings that you can change to your liking. Speech and TX appear to be only used when you're using an SDR that can transmit. In fact, as I'm here using an SDRPlay device in this example, the TX tab is not actually selectable. Now, the WSJTX tab allows you to show a data decoder for receiving and decoding popular data modes like FT8. Now, transmitting FT8 or any other type of supported digital mode is again possible if you're using an SDR with transmit capabilities. Now, the SDR tab allows you to choose which device you have connected from a drop-down list. You can also alter other settings here like sample rate and bandwidth. Again, as I'm using an RSP-DXR2, which has 3 antenna ports, I'm able to select this from this screen which antenna port is being used. Now, this is very useful if you have one port for HF and the other for a VHF antenna, for example. You can also adjust the span of the spectrum here, although I did find this a little glitchy sometimes. Now, on the settings tab is where we can select the audio interface being used. Now, for me, I'm using a little USB sound card. This allows an audio out, say to speakers, for example, or to the input of your computer. This also provides an audio input, so if you're using this as a transmitting SDR, you could connect a microphone to it. Other settings on this tab include enabling a DC filter, adjusting the screen brightness, and also enabling a web interface. Now, when enabled, you're able to open a web browser on a computer which is on the same network as the SDRBERRY, and you can view a screen like this. Now, I believe this is still under active development, so don't expect everything to be working right now, but it does give you an idea of how well this software has been put together and the possibility of future features. Now, you can change bands using this interface and use that rotary control here to fine tune. The audio does still come out of the Pi's sound card, and I didn't see any way to enable audio streaming through the browser, but maybe that might come later. You can, however, view decoded FT8 packets using this screen, assuming you have Monitor enabled on the WSJTX tab. So the question is now, how do we install this software? And I'd like to take a moment to thank JLC PCB for sponsoring this video. Now, JLC PCB provide easy, affordable and reliable PCB and PCBA solutions, empowering electronic engineers to develop projects efficiently. Now, JLC PCB website is extremely easy to use, and ordering PCBs from JLC PCB is effortless. Just simply upload your Gerber file to get an instant quote and place your order in minutes. It's as easy as shopping online. Now, you can get 1 to 8 layer PCBs for just $2, and with efficient large-scale production, this reduces cost and brings you unbeatable prices. Quality and lead time is highly reliable, and all in-house production ensures quality stability, especially with their strict quality control in every process. You can have your PCBs produced in less than 24 hours if you need them in a rush. Easy to use, affordable to make, and reliable to trust. You can always count on JLC PCB. Now, don't miss out JLC PCB's 6-layer PCB special. You can get $30 off with a coupon and enjoy top quality 6-layer PCBs for just $5. Thanks again to JLC PCB for sponsoring this video. Now, luckily it's fairly easy to do, and I'll show you how to install the software and any device drivers you may need. So first, we need a fresh micro SD card that will image with the latest Pi operating system. Now, for this, I'll use the official Raspberry Pi Imager application, and I'll also configure some settings before we write that image to the card. This makes it easier to gain access to the Pi once we put the SD card into the Pi itself and power it up. I set the host name to SDRBERRY and then give it a username of Pi, and well, I just kind of choose my own password. I also configure it to automatically connect to my home Wi-Fi network. This is so that we have network access as soon as it powers up. Now, once the card is imaged, put the SD card into the Pi and power it on. I will also assume at this point that you're using the same 7-inch screen as me, and you have the Pi mounted on the back of the screen. When you do power up the Pi for the first time, you may see that the screen is upside down, but don't worry, we'll fix that later. Now, once powered up, you'll need to use an application called PuTTY or any other SSH terminal application you want to use. Connect to the Pi over the network using your SSH client software, enter the username and password, and you should be presented with a command prompt. We now need to ensure that the Pi does not boot up into desktop mode, so type sudo space raspi-config to enter the Pi configuration screen. From here, select System Options and then Boot/Auto Login. From here, just press Enter on your keyboard with the second option selected. That's Console Auto Login, and then just exit the configuration tool until you're prompted to reboot, in which case you want to select Yes. Now wait for the Pi to reboot and then reconnect to the Pi using your SSH application. After entering your credentials again, you will now need to run a couple of update commands. Now the first one is this, sudo space apt-get space update. That one should finish pretty quickly. But then once that's done, you need to run sudo space apt-get space upgrade. Now this upgrade process may take a few minutes, so kind of just sit back and let it do its thing. Once complete, we now need to sort out the screen rotation issue. Now from the command line, type this line, sudo space nano space /boot/firmware/cmdline.txt. Now at the end of this line, you need to add this text from where it says video. So video equals DSI, etc., just like this. Now just exit that by pressing Ctrl X and then Y to save the file. At this point, you can reboot the Pi, and this time when it boots up, the screen should be in the correct orientation. So now we need to install the SDRBERRY application. If we head over to the GitHub page, we can see the lines of code that we need to enter to install the software. Now technically there are only 3 lines, but it does depend on which device you are wanting to use with it, whether it's a HackRF, RTL-SDR, SDRPlay, a Pluto, or even a HiFiBerry or Radioberry. Now the first two lines here downloads the installation script, and the second line just makes that install file executable. The last line here you may want to change. The installation script expects you to tell it which SDR device you are wanting to use with SDRBERRY, so that it can automatically install the drivers for it. It also requires you to enter either DSI, which is for the original 7-inch touchscreen, or T2 for the newer version 2 higher resolution Pi screen. Now the default install here says HFB and DSI. Now I want the DSI to be left there, but I'll change the HFB, which is for HiFiBerry, which I don't have, to HRF, which is for the HackRF. Now if you're not using any of the listed devices above, then you can just enter no here and install the drivers separately. Now I will show you how to install the drivers for RTL-SDR and any SDRPlay devices after this install finishes. Now when we run this script, it will take some time, quite a long time in fact, so again just chill and let it do its thing. Now once it is completed installing, the Pi will automatically reboot, and again once it's rebooted, connect to the Pi using your SSH application. Now just a note here, if you want to, you can just use a mouse and keyboard plugged into the Pi itself, so you don't have to keep doing SSH. Now once you log back in, type this command, SOAPY SDR util space -- info. This will then show you which SDR devices are installed. Now this is telling me that the main SOAPY driver is installed and that the HiFiBerry module is also installed as well. However, I do not want to use the HiFiBerry, so I'll now install the RTL-SDR SOAPY driver. Now if you're not wanting to install an RTL-SDR device, then use the chapters in the video description to skip to the SDRPlay installation. So first I need to install some RTL-SDR support libraries using this line of code. So once those are installed, we can now download the RTL-SDR SOAPY driver, compile it, and then install it, just using these lines of codes. Now you can grab these from my GitHub page if you need to. I'll leave a link to that in the video description. Now once that's complete, you can run that SOAPY SDR util -- info command again, and now you should be able to see librtl-SDR support module is available in the list. Now one last thing we need to perform before we can run the program is to take a look inside the settings file. So to do this, enter this command. Then scroll down to where it says input and ensure that there is a line there that says touch_swap_xy equals 3. Now that switches the touchscreen around so it's in the right orientation. That's the touch level, not the actual screen itself. Then scroll down a little further until you see RTL-SDR and ensure you have the same values as what is shown here. Now if you have something missing from these settings, then when you try and start the application, you may get notified of a segmentation fault. These are just the default settings it needs, and maybe some of these settings are not in the original config. Now save this file, make sure your RTL-SDR is plugged in to one of the Pi's USB ports, and then just run this command to start. Now at this point, it's also worth having a mouse plugged into the Pi so you can navigate around the SDR application. Now once it's running, head to the SDR tab and make sure that RTL-SDR is selected. Of course, you may not be using an RTL-SDR here, so if you're using a HackRF for example, and you installed the HackRF drivers as default, then you can just select HackRF here. Okay, so let's now take a look at how we install SDRPlay SOAPY drivers. For this, we'll need to access the terminal again. First, we need to run this command, which goes off and grabs the SDRPlay API installation script. Once downloaded, we need to enter this command to make it executable. Then we run the installation script using this command. Now you will be prompted with a couple of questions, but just accept these and continue. Once the SDRPlay API is installed, we can now install the SDRPlay SOAPY driver. Using this set of commands, which again I will make sure are available on GitHub page for you to copy and paste, enter these and let the SOAPY driver compile and install. You can now check that the SDRPlay SOAPY driver is installed by using this command again, and then viewing the list of drivers. LibSDRPlay support should now be listed there. Start the SDRBERRY application using this command. Now on the Pi screen, the application should start and you'll need to go to the SDR tab and select SDRPlay. And you'll also need to select the sound card output from the main settings tab on the far right. Now you should have a fully working SDR application on your screen, running on a Pi and looking super cool.
Yeah, you're doing well on those. There's no need to go, Graham. No need to go. In a minute, I'm going to have to take the dog.
A jack of all trades thing, and around 100 watts on VHF, which was great in the box.
It's more cloud than sun, I'm afraid, at the moment, but it's warming this room up nicely.
CQ 10, CQ on 10, CQ on 10 meters, CQ is beaming northwest. This is Bulgaria, LC2RS, Lima Zulu 2, Romeo Sierra, Lima Zebra 2, Radio Sugar, calling CQ and listening, over.
Now I know I haven't gone through how to install all the different drivers for all the different SDRs that this supports, but it is as simple as finding the SOAPY installation script for that device. Anyway, let me know what you think of this down in the comments below. Remember, if you need support on this, I would highly recommend you to leave a message on the GitHub issue page. I didn't write this application. This has been compiled and written by somebody else. So please don't expect fast responses to any support questions that you may ask in the video. But feel free to share your experience with others. Until the next video, take care of yourselves. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.